Hello there. Gilroy is here to lazily compile 3 videos. Look. The excuses are good, alright? Check the descriptions for those. And so yeah, the video is gonna go through every single enemy, field bosses and main bosses of Elden Ring, including the DLC. Although I don't talk much about the legends of the base game. And of course, if you enjoy anything from this video, drop a like, comment down below if you want to add any lore that I might have missed, and subscribe. We somehow crossed 200 during my absence. Well, let's target 300 by next month. Why not?
Let's start with dragons. This will surely have higher viewer retention. Also, check out the other dragon video I made. Ancient dragons. They had or have, you know how Farmazula is like. Gravel stones as scales and could or can summon red lightning. Like all of them. Dragon Lord Placidusax, the first true Elden Lord, he ruled from Farmazula, but when Grand Sax attacked Lindel, war erupted. The war ended with Liege Dragon Fortisax befriending Godwyn the Golden. This resulted in a dragon cult being born. Ancient dragon Lanciax was Fortisax's sister. She took human form to commune with the cult and taught them ancient draconic spells. These do not require dragon communion, by the way, and fell in love with Vike. She is probably still in Altus because she doesn't know about Vike's frenzy. These ancient Faramazula dragons are the ancestors of the modern dragons. Both are different physiologically, and the modern ones cannot summon lightning. Greyall is the biggest modern dragon we know of, even bigger than most ancient dragons, only falling short of Grand Sax. She is hailed as the mother of all dragons now. The lesser dragons around her are quite lessers, as they cannot even fly yet. Along with their mother, these escaped the Scarlet Rot and made a nest. The nest being named Greyall's Dragon Barrow. But Greyall, who is found near her and might be her child, can actually fly, and that's about it. Ughiel is completely similar to Greyall, but it has somehow become a symbol of worship. The nobles in Ughiel Lake, who have lost sight of grace and are slowly going insane, pray that Ughiel burns them till true death sweetly embraces them. The Glintstone dragons are modern dragons, imbued with glintstone obviously. All of them are probably in service of Rani the Witch. Smaragd and Adula are two named ones. Smaragd is a devourer of sorcerers, whose body gradually became corrupted by the glintstones of those sorcerers he ate, and guards a corpse holding the Academy Glintstone key, likely on Rani's orders. Adula is the same, but there is actual evidence that Adula is actually Rani's servant, becoming so after being bested by her. Exyx was known as the Dragon Communion Revenger. It did not forget his hatred towards those who consumed dragon hearts, even after being inflicted with the rot. Borealis is one of the former lords of the mountaintops, whom the fire giants chased away. He comes back after the fire giant genocide. Magma worms were once humans, but got too much into dragons. A total of 4 can be found. Of the 4, Theodorix is the only one who gets a little lore. He was an ancient troll warrior, a hero of the war against giants, but as usual partook too much in dragon communion and became a worm. But it sucks that he doesn't have any unique troll-like features or attacks. Also, Makar was initially known as Makal. I find it very funny. Dragonkin soldiers were born in the Eternal Cities. They never knew true lightning, so Will's ice lightning instead, which is at least equally cool. They never achieved immortality and perished as mere imitations. Spectral ones appear in the snowfields, so maybe they perished here. The ones we fight are probably reanimated corpses, signaled by the hollow insides and patchworks. Who reanimates them? I have no clue. So another creature of Nocturne and Noxtella Silver tears were created by the Eternal Cities in an attempt to forge their very own lord. Alas, they cannot mimic a lord. Well, they can mimic us. But they can mimic regular Noxmen and Trolls. These are called mimic tears. As for lesser versions, the silver tears can be spiky, husky, electric, and a giant massive iron ball. They're deemed as a mockery of life, doomed to be reborn again and again only to imitate. Claymen are former priests, searching for revelation in service of the ancient dynasty. But it seems that they haven't noticed yet that their dynasty is long gone. Okay, the ancestor followers worship the ancestor spirits and harbor the belief that these spirits grow from horns of long-lived beasts, like birds. So they await for this birth away from the earth tree. So they are not actually like the original citizens of the eternal cities. They're sort of like immigrants. Also, they have thrown away metal and paper but still hit insanely hard with animal parts. And the shamans use infant skulls? What the fuck? No explanations for corporeal and ethereal forms. My theory is that they are becoming ancestor spirits themselves. Oh, legend was not talked about that much. I wonder why. The ancestor spirits follow the principle that life can also derive from death. The difference between the regal and non-regal spirits might be simply the length of time since their deaths, or the beast was a king or something, I don't know, man. I hate copy-paste bosses, both gameplay and lore-wise. People, including me, have to pull logic out of their asses to make their existence possible. And as we all know, the star's Radan was continuously stopping our actual beasts. The falling star beasts are the larvas. Full-grown falling star beasts have greater magical capabilities and have a similar skull, that of Astel. Malformed stars are the cocoon stage. Astel is the final form. Although unsure if this Astel was the one or not, probably no, but one such falling star destroyed an eternal city by crashing into it, possibly the nameless city in deep-root depths. It is weaker than Astel, stars of darkness. A logical aspool is that Astels are common where they come from, like Guzzlords and Ultra Beasts from Pokemon. A horrible beast to our eyes, but just a Shiba Inu in their homeworld. Instead of getting utterly destroyed, some chose to take life from falling extraterrestrial objects. Alabaster Lords are a race of ancients with stone skins risen to life from a struck meteor. They have gravity powers and wield swords made from blue-white meteoric ore. Radan learned gravity magic from one of them in Celia. They use a greatsword, and Onyx Lords use golden, curved greatswords and meteorite sorcery. That's about the only differences, though they are darker as well. The Onyx Lord in Royal Grave Evergel was originally called Alabaster Lord. Since there are no boss Alabaster Lords now, it would not be wrong to assume that Onyx Lords are deemed superior. Star Callers are gravity sorcerers. They have some sort of relation with Alabaster Lords. They are essentially meteorite scavengers, and Star Callers are what they name themselves. School of Graven Mages happens when you do what Sullen does. Death at the hands of Witch Hunter Drennan would have been better in my opinion. Or just running away with me to live out a peaceful life would have been better. Like, look at this, man. There are so many grotesque creatures in Soulsborne games, but this is like one of the top ones that I do not ever want to become. Anyways, you get too obsessed and close to the primeval current and you end up like this. Some people have the notion that Rani or Renala did this to Sun, but no, this is simply nature. Crystallians might be an actual race, but the fact they are inorganic and the fact that they themselves believe they are a construct is a strong argument against that. They cleave very close to the ideals of the primeval current and thus are regarded as guests by the sorcerers. Their cognition is known as the wisdom of the stone, and they bear the sole purpose of safeguarding their crystals until the very end. Some believe they await the return of the Creator, who will craft them new brethren. They use crystal magic and weaponry, namely spears, staffs, and ring blades. Very cool, by the way. Hope it's in the DLC. Which are humanly impossible to create. Some of them are putrid in Alfile. Technically, they're unique in the way that its stance damage doesn't recover until fully broken. And through sorcery, or maybe not, marionette soldiers were created in Rea Lucaria to serve sorcerers but are now on the verge of falling apart. Avionette soldiers are simply marionette soldiers with avian futures, although they like to stand still a lot. Trolls are descendants of giants, but they betrayed their ancestors in the war against them and fought on behalf of the Erdtree, yet they are usually enslaved. Sometimes a stake is put through their hole to drag caravans. They can be found frenzied as well. In the mountaintops, trolls can be found using golden swords. Although usually seen as lowly creatures, Renala treated the trolls as true knights and called them into service through an ancient oath. These Carian troll knights have great swords embedded with glintstones. One of such knights is Balls, who is imprisoned in Kaku's Evangel because he is a knight of Carian royalty, who the Kakus went to war against. Your usual trolls seem to have lost their minds but still stay inseparable from their swords that are in, sad shape. Two particular trolls, dubbed as Stone Diggers, wield the Troll's Hammer, a ceremonial smithing tool. In the distant past, it was considered divine. EG uses it as well. Another huge group of enemies is golems. Golems are gigantic constructs created to protect and guard, like usual, but this time their creators didn't seem to have the budget to schedule them leg days. Their weapons are crafted from black stone, crafted by a civilization long gone to ruin. They have halberds and great bows, though the one in Khalid has a magic-imbued halberd. The Divine Breach Golem is often confused as a boss due to its positioning and the fact that it does not respawn, but it is not a boss. More artificial constructs are the gargoyles. Gargoyles in the lands between are mended with corpse wax, patchwork of champions. All of them use dual weapons. The valiant gargoyle duo we find in Noxtella are somehow sickly, even though it is of magical construct, thus are poisonous. There are some non-boss variants, but none of them respawn except the one in Lindel. The broken statues found in Lindel protecting key roots are seemingly broken down gargoyles. Black Blade Kindreds are gargoyles mended with black corpse wax and serve Malekith. They can use powers of the Rune of Death thanks to their master. One guards Malekith and the other one guards the Grand Lift of Rold, so none may pursue the Rune of Death. More constructs. Imps are statues with cat or wolf heads given life. Some of them are fanged or long-tongued. They exclusively infest catacombs, so they might have been made to protect them under secrets, as they are not exactly life forms. Similar living statues are the Erdtree burial watchdogs, said to command the imps. They protect the graves of those who are given the honor of an Erdtree burial. Many variants of this exist. Their swords are decorated with the watchman's eye, but the pupils have been stolen by afflicted grave robbers. Their staffs are able to cast ancient sorcery. They are battered and broken after a long tenure of unpaid internship. Interestingly, the Frost Watchdogs are always mobs, and the Lightning ones always a boss. Additionally, hitting imps and watchdogs with crystal darts cause them to go into a maddened state. Cemetery Shades are mostly ambiguous, formless, dark creatures. They are insect-ridden gravekeepers of the catacombs. Just chariots, not the flame ones, are the things that you sometimes find in catacombs. Peculiarly enough, these are only found in heroes' graves, 3 in total. They probably are not organic, just machines with a statue riding it on top. If you did not know, these guys can be destroyed. Grave Warden duelists are former gladiators who were exiled from the Colliseum. As for how they ended up as Grave Wardens is not mentioned, but I assume they simply needed a job. The bronze armor they wear is adorned with snakes, which are dubbed to be traitorous to the Earth Tree, meaning in a Colosseum fight, the audiences loved to see them get beaten to a pulp. They are said to attack with frenzied favor, but then they are not frenzied, though one is actually frenzied and one is putrid. Mad pumpkin heads are also former gladiators who are broken inside and has been driven mad. They are made to wear pitch black helmets not only to keep them from panicking but also to alleviate feelings of pressure and claustrophobia. I really wonder how that works. They are sometimes seen carrying standard banners. They are easily agitated by bloodshed or the humming of insects. They are also enraged when woken from sleep, understandably. One boss protects Selen's room, might be her slave, which that were me, blah blah. The duo boss in Caelem Ruins have their weapons on fire, possibly because of the fire monks or just to keep the rot away. Yes, Scarlet Rot. Kindred of Rot are insectoids from the swamp of Aeonia, also known as pests. They are the forsaken servants and unwanted children of the goddess of Rot, but they still worship her. What kind of Stockholm Syndrome this is, I do not know. They also worship Melania and even Millicent and even her sisters as eventual replacements. It's probably copium, but they believe that they were sent to distant lands to spread rot, then return home with glory. Servants of Rot are mutated humanoids wielding powers of rot, found in caves and rotted areas, like the saints of Melania, like Marais. Oh yes, Marais. I actually got to know this guy's lore for the video. I knew about Elemer though. Elemer is one of the coolest bosses in the game, hands down, by the way. When a ranking video comes eventually, my thoughts will be reflected. Anyways, Elemer of the Briar is also known as the bell-bearing hunter and has hunted numerous instructors and merchants. He steals their bells, but does not permanently kill anyone, so not that much of a bad guy. The thing with Marais was just a villain origin story, I guess. Elemer is from Eochaid. The telekinetic sword skills are from his homeland. During his execution, he snatched his own executioner's sword and took over the Shaded Castle and killed almost all of the Marais family. The executioner family appointed in Shaded Castle. Curiously, some bell-bearing hunters are somehow stronger than their original version. Malay Marais is the lord of the Shaded Castle. He is one of the only survivor of Elemer's sack. He secretly worships the Scarlet Rot and Melania, becoming obsessed, though for logical reasons actually, not for simping reasons. Like, I get it. The Marais bloodline is very sickly, thus Malay admired Melania, who despite her affliction remained strong. The state of Shaded Castle as it is now reflects his shifting ideals, as the halls of the castle is filled with prostheses, clean wrought armor and even a giant portrait of Melania. Okay, there might be some simping reasons. Of those Elemer hunted, nomads probably constitute a large number. Nomads have a really fucked up story. Kale has a cut questline which I think should have been in the game 100%, so go check that out. Nomads once thrived as the Great Caravan, now one Kale 6, but they were accused of heretical beliefs and the entire clan was rounded up and buried alive in the shunning grounds, even beneath omens. This belief was related to the frenzied flame, and through their suffocating, claustrophobic isolation, the nomads chanted curses of despair against the Golden Order and the Erdtree and summoned the actual flame of frenzy. Another race shunned by the Erdtree are the Misbegotten. The Misbegotten are malformed beings punished for making contact with the Crucible, the primordial form of the Erdtree. More on that in the next bit. They were usually looked down upon and employed as slaves. like at Castle Morn, but the slaves here rebelled and a Leonine misbegotten took over the castle. A Leonine is just a misbegotten with more prevalent lion-like features. Castellan Edgar retook the grafted blade greatsword from him with our help, but because of his ignorance, his daughter Irina died. Edgar goes completely mad, possibly even en route to being frenzied, and invades us. There is a misbegotten warrior with a perfumer, and one with a crucible knight. Another one, dubbed Misbegotten Crusader, somehow came into the possession of the Golden Order Greatsword, Sacred Sword of Radagon, originally a sword gifted by Renala. Basically, he threw away his extra stuff. This one may be fighting to remove the heretic tag from Misbegottens, so all Misbegottens have red hair like Radagon because they're supposed to be his children. Evident by the game files, yeah, Radagon and Elden Beast, their entry is this line. Also, if you wanna copy paste shit, do it like Misbegottens. Leonine Misbegotten and Crusaders are excellent bosses, have enough difference in lore, design, combat, everything. Perfumer Tricia is the one with a misbegotten warrior. Perfumers were once respected apothecaries before the Shattering. They were especially revered in Lindell, but the war caused the spread of their arts, so no more market control. A depraved perfumers use spices to alter their bodies and minds. The depraved ones' aprons also have intertwining serpents, a symbol of cursing upon the earth tree. Perfumer Karman was particularly strong as a hero. Usually perfumers healed higher class people, but Tricia healed all, even a misbegotten warrior, deemed impure, and struck an alliance. The first omen killer was a perfumer. Omen killers hunt omens. Wow. They wear helmets with twisted horns because they resemble the evil spirits omens see in nightmares. They also wield paired cleavers affixed with severed omen horns. Talk about being a hater, huh? Their source of hatred is never mentioned though. The aprons they wear are not related to omens. They wear to imitate Rolo's god. One omen killer is found in the village of Albinorix, possibly one of those responsible for the massacre of its inhabitants on the orders of Gideon. It has 3 dogs and wields cleavers. What does it remind me of? There is also one boss in the Perfumer's Grotto, alongside a Miranda. This guy is probably trying to learn more about Rolo. Omens are cursed beings born without the grace of the Earth Tree. Their appearances vary depending on the strength of the curse. Excised omen have had their horn brutally cut, a process which not many babies survive. They're usually in the shunning grounds or treated as slaves elsewhere. Omens born into nobility are especially sent to the shunning grounds. 2 omen twins guard Morgoth and Mog's divine tower, and wield similar magic to them, definitely not just copy-paste. Sewer Mog is an illusion, either placed by Mog or Morgoth, as letting the 3 fingers escape won't do any good to any of them. Possibly this is Morgoth's illusion, as he already has a track record with his father Godfrey's Golden Shade. Mog has an extensive and very sus lore, of course. He follows the Formless Mother and the Accursed Blood. Vare and the Nameless White Masks are his followers along with the Bloody Fingers. The White Masks were all war surgeons or mercy killers and were abducted by Mog to tame the Accursed Blood. But only Vare was able to do so, because he is apparently built different. Like, this is what is actually written. Fucking asshole. There are also Sanguine Nobles, and Invader 1 is more like an NPC, dual-wielding Reduvius, and has a sick Morgwyn dynasty tattoo on his face. These nobles serve Mog both as assassins and missionaries, and bear elaborate designs on the shoulders to signify their noble rank. Esger is one such priest, who is in Lindell catacombs with his 2 dogs, possibly sent to fetch Mog's shackles. Now, the other twin, Morgoth's lore is quite known, so let's talk about the Knight's Cavalry. Morgoth acted as Margit and gained notoriety for killing Tarnished and protecting Lindell and Stormville, but he also was the commander of the Knights Cavalry. They are only mentioned as deliverers of death. There are 9 of them, and obvious not to the Nazgul, so why there is no unique Witch King of Angmar boss fight, I don't know. Oh yeah, Dung Eater, yeah, he seeks to make everyone an omen. Of course, the Erdtree shunning doesn't stop here. Albinorics are man-made creatures. As a result, they are deemed unholy. The first generation, although human-like, took an arrow to their knees, their legs sometimes even disappeared. That's why they tend to ride stuff, especially dire wolves, and practice archery. Some also have mastered sorcery with the help of their innate arcane nature. Some of them can spew poison, possibly fed something as a method of torture. Few are bound to walls to act as lookouts in Castle Sol and can manifest, exile soldiers and banish night spirits to help defend the castle. Some are forced to wear the black dumpling as torture, but it makes them slightly more powerful. The second generation of Albinorics are smooth, skinned, frog-like people, although they can masterfully use their legs. They use primitive weapons, although the red ones in Morgwyn Palace have better gear and are stronger. Yes, the farming spot ones. They have sworn fealty to Morg because Morg probably promised them a place in his dynasty or something. They can also summon giant skeletons. Although shunned by the Erdtree, some Albinorics have been somehow blessed with golden eyes and can use Discus of Light. So Gideon Ofnir exterminated them because they had one half of the Helictree medallion. Ensha of the Royal Remains invades you for said medallion. Not gonna talk about Gideon to a full extent, but Ensha probably is a former lord. The bones of his armor are from an ancient lord at least, dubbed the Soulless King, the Lord of the Lost and Desperate. This guy was known as Ensha. So our Ensha either is the Lord himself or stole his identity. Other than that, he is just an arrogant servant of Gideon. Even more shunning, but not necessarily by the Erdtree this time. Demi-humans are small and bestial creatures who are more aggressive at night, but they are capable of negotiation, evident by the alliance with Kenneth Height. Although they might have invaded Fort Height because the dead body of their queen was kept there. Might be a trick of Kenneth, to be honest. They have hierarchical societies. You have Bok, normal demi-humans, chiefs, and then queens. They use a variety of weapons, and the queens can even use magic. The chiefs walk on 4 legs. If killed, others will panic. The chiefs of Bok's clan held his mother's sewing tools. There are 3 named demi-human queens: Gillica in Lux Ruins, Margot in Volcano Cave, and Maggie in Hermit Village. Maggie somehow struck an alliance with Raya Lucaria to give her a staff, and in exchange that she would protect Azur's resting spot along with other sorcerers. Vulgar militiamen are small creatures who were scorned throughout the lands between, thus they ganged up to make a living. They serve the freshly signed battleground, fusing with the stretch of the dead. They act as untiring unsung watchkeepers of these forbidden lands. I do not know what the fuck any of this means. Because of this way of living, they suffer public shame. Some of them are also aligned with Malekith. The commoners are commoners, and time for more shunning. Lower class citizens have lost their wits. They wear a self-imposed shackle to show allegiance to the Erdtree. Some of them have gone frenzied, some are somehow necromancers, some are imprisoned and battered in Volcano Manor, some death sims can use Fear's Mist. And speaking of death, skeletons are part of those who live in death. Skeleton mages are aged gravekeepers who tend the forgotten graveyards. There are also skeletal militiamen and bandits. They all have different drip. There are some golden ones who are not weak to holy and spew magic gas when gliding. How are these created? Some are beastmen. The ones in catacombs are your basic soul skeletons with no drip. Tibia mariners are leaders of those who live in death, each carrying a death root. They can summon big as Skellies. They were initially known as Bone Beckoner Mariner. This name is quite dumb, right? Worm faces are found in altars and Faramazula. They can be clothed or not. They might be the corpses buried in catacombs connected to the artery routes, who were in process of becoming one with them but got interrupted by death root, thus able to inflict death now. When there was no artery, death was burned in ghost flame and death birds were keepers of that fire. Death ride birds can use magic while death birds cannot. Raven Mount assassins worship them. Death birds are graveyard firekeepers, said to take out the ashen remains of the dead from their kilns. All are said to be offspring of the twin bird, an envoy of an unknown outer god similar to the Elden Beast. Through the ancient act of the rite of death, priests of old were permitted to come inside the death birds and become the guardians, like literally getting inside. An act which serves as an oath sworn to their distant resurrection. So they predate Godwin's death, right? But they are still part of those who live in death. This can mean that this shit existed long before, was waiting for a vassal in the shape of Godwin, or plot hole. Putrid corpses are whatever their names suggest. Not. Who the fuck named them this with all the scarlet rot around? They can be scarlet rotten, yes, but not all of them are. They can be regular corpses, maggot infested, magical burning, bleed inflicting, and mushroom infested. They are seemingly not that different from your usual undead, but lore suggests they are yet to die a true death. So they are not part of those who live in death, I think. Revenants are a grotesque amalgamation of limbs. They have an arachnid body structure and the face of a human, much like a grafted scion. It possesses many grafted limbs, taken from diseased humans. My theory is that Godric was inspired from these revenants. Revenants are capable of traveling through portals created with an unknown magic. A royal revenant is encountered in the King's Realm ruins in Liurnia, guarding the frozen needle forged by E.G. So this revenant might be in the service of Carian royalty. Wraith callers worship them. They are similar to revenants design-wise but less extreme. Possibly they grafted limbs themselves and were ordinary humanoids at first. They are also seen to mount almost skeletal horses. If you did not know this already from the other 300 YouTubers, Hills heard these guys. Also, confusion whether they are really part of those who live in death or not. I seem to have run out of transitions. Let's see who's left. Yeah, got an idea. Similarly grotesque ones are Fingercreepers. Fingercreepers are born out of an ancient act of blasphemy, thus hangs around such places like Mount Gelmir and Karya Manor. Those who bear rings can cast spells but eventually outgrow them. They are all weak to flame, and Yoshikage Kira is weak to them. Okay, no more transitions. Abductor virgins or iron virgins are created by Rykard, possibly to protect Renala but also to capture people and interrogate them. All of them have or had the ability to transpose, but lack of maintenance has caused this ability to go away. So they can only constrict people now. The ones below Realukari Academy still work though. They come with wheels, scythes or sometimes both. The duo boss fight has one of each. Curiously enough, a headless variant can be seen in the village near Mount Gelmir and shows erratic behavior, meaning its head holds the cord or whatever. Inquisitor Giza, an agent of Volcano Manor, has modeled his weapon, Giza's wheel, after the wheels of these virgins. The god Devouring Serpent devoured a demigod and gave birth to man-serpents. I do not know how that works, and it's unknown if both the serpent and the demigod are the ones we fight. Man-serpents can be mages as well. Oh yes, Rykard. Abnormal stone clusters or lookout stones have no official description at all. They are found either crawling or standing around Evergels, so many suspect they are the guardians of Evergels, or lookouts, or the very power sources, as Evergels are kind of a mystery. But far away from this, in Kaelid, some literally cluster together to give you an explosive welcome. Kite and Sellswords are mercenaries who seek to be employed as protectors. They are from the northern mountaintops, not necessarily the mountaintops of the giants, and they are, guess what? From a village called Kaiden. Earth-tree guardians are reborn as protectors of the Earth-tree through an ancient pact. They have branches in their backs. Some of these branches have fully bloomed. They can be usually found around Earth-tree avatars. Earth-tree avatars emerged in the wake of the Shattering to protect minor Earth-trees. The miners only know of mining. That is why they are hostile to anyone who ventures in their mines. Glintstone miners use stone digger sorceries. Azula beastmen are all from Farum Azula, but few have found their way into the lands between. Due to Farum Azula's destruction, they are not in the best shape. Lightning-wielding beastmen who are chosen to guard Placidus Axe. All of these beastmen are insatiably hungry, evident by the corpses of the Godric soldiers around one boss, and so is Beast Clergyman, who is hungry for Deathroot. And Malekith, Blackbeard, Shadow to Marika, Rune of Death, blah blah blah. Also, Rykard was given the Blasphemous Claw by Rani to combat Malekith but never got to use it. After all the mostly depressing lore, let's end with a happy note. With my bro Alexander's race. Living jars are brought to life by human flesh and blood. Okay? But they're normally kind and even have a peaceful enough village. Hey, that's what I'm talking about. They attack you because they perceive you as a threat, and rightly so. Their body fragments have magical value and cost a lot, so poachers target them. Why does everyone have to be sad or insane? There are little jars, exploding soul jars, and warrior jars. The warrior jars contain remnants of warriors, and they pass these innards from jar to jar, passing along their dreams of greatness. The great jar warrior is just there to test you. Well, that didn't go well, so let's end with these round boys actually. Oracle envoys are monstrous band of musicians. Their tunes are said to herald a new god or a new age, thus found in Lindel and the Halictree. Their faces are hidden with cloth, but faint whimpering can be heard from the inside.
You could say every demigod has their own army of little guys, and mostly they consist of humanoids. Usually every army has 3 tiers. You have foot soldiers, soldiers, and knights. Foot soldiers do not have the largest numbers. Soldiers do. Also, I for one think that there should have been some knight commander-like bosses for each army, like Ordovis in Siluria, but whatever. Now, the Royal Lindel Cavalry has a complicated relationship with Morgoth. He is of royalty, yes, but still an omen, as we can clearly see, so he can't exactly rule publicly. Thus he did stuff as Margit the Fell Omen. So then, how does the Lindel army still function? That's because they are extremely loyal to the Earth-tree, not the throne, not the Golden Order, nor Marika. They are in Lindel to simply protect the Earth-tree, nothing more. The soldiers were the ramparts that fortified the royal capital during the Shattering. Their golden circles have the object of their worship. And the knights' helmets represent the honor of standing among the tree's defenders. Their breastplates also have a symbol of virtue worship and rumored to have been imbued with an incantation of protection. The spirit ash we use of ancient dragon knight Kristoff is a Lindel knight. Kristoff earned the hero's honor of Earth-tree burial for the feat of capturing Godfrey the Grafted. So Godfrey was involved in this very first siege. We can find him in Golden Lineage Evergel. He's a member of, you guessed it, the Golden Lineage like Godric. Crazy that he would take up the same hobby of grafting as his, I don't know, distant cousin. The soldiers of Godric are what remains of the army that fled the royal capital. They wear orange and green circles bearing the emblems of the Earth-tree and the Beast Regent, Sarosh, an emblem of Golden Lineage. The knights wear the same color stuff, but also wear a plate with a 2-headed war axe, another emblem of Golden Lineage. Their helms are plumed with ashen hell like Godric himself, and their great shields are coated in a red-tinged gold, which mirrors the primordial matter that became the Earth-tree, said to be the color of homeward yearning. There is a unique blood-crazed Godric knight who has taken over Fort Height. He seems to be an agent of Moog. Another part of Godric's army are grafted scions, his experiments, and they carry armaments symbolizing the golden lineage. They are called scions because, well, they're still growing. Growing as in the grafted parts are that of. Don't make me say it, man. YouTube is gonna demonetize me even though I'm not even monetized yet. The Rodan cavalry has your typical foot soldiers, but the soldiers are rumored to know no weaknesses. They're essentially masterful warriors. I really doubt that. Their circles display a redman lion raising a sword, and their visors are styled after lion's fangs. Rodan Knights are uniquely known as Redman Knights. Their red plumes are a symbol of Radan's pedigree, of course. Redman Knight Yoga is the longest serving and can use gravity magic like his lord. The purple in all of their armor indicates the said gravity. These knights remained in Caelid and they knew they were gonna die, but still remained to drive off the rot, even burning their crests to show their resolve. Maybe because of their absolute dedication, their specters can still be found fighting spectral Cleanrot Knights. Melania's army only consisted of Cleanrot Knights, because I doubt your average foot soldier Joe would sign up for her rot, unlike her loyal Cleanrot Knights who vowed to fight for her despite gradual and inevitable rot. They each carry a winged sword insignia, and they all carry a sword like Melania. Their commanders hold the Halo Scythe and also use Michaela's rings. Their golden armor is adorned with crimson fur, symbolizing the rot, of course. Only named Cleanrot Knight is Finlay, who after Melania's nuke carried her to the Halictree and perished in the process by her own mistress's rot. Like Finlay, most Cleanrot Knights have died. The survivors remain scattered throughout the land, like in Stillwater Cave and Abandoned Cave. They all are obviously in hiding. The foot soldiers of Michaela's Halictree carry sacred light that explodes in their last moments. They do this because they think this will help in the law's return. Somehow, I don't know how. The Halictree soldiers are directly stated to be weak, thus they're found in huge groups. They bear the crest of the Halictree and their color scheme is golden with white. The Halictree Knights wield holy and magic, and their armor is made of unalloyed gold. Loretta, a former Carrion Knight, left to search for a safe haven for Albinorix. Why? Because she might have been one herself. Eventually, she found Michaela and to show loyalty, replaced her glintstone stuff with gold. But her spectral version is still in Carrier Manor. Now, this can be an illusion of Rani, but also can be a show of good faith by Loretta herself, because it's not like she betrayed Carrier. The Real Lucaria foot soldiers wander around the academy in Liurnia and are not permitted to enter. Real Lucaria soldiers are known as Cuckoos, and they were given free rein to wage war by the academy and were infamous for it. Their circles depict twinned cuckoos peering into a flourishing mass of glintstone. Each helm is adorned with a single cuckoo's feather. They are no sorcerers, thus they use the cuckoo glintstones. And when the academy turned against the Carrion royal family, the cuckoos launched an assault on Carrier Manor. However, they were caught in an enchanted snare and turned into spectral puppets to defend the manor. Cuckoo Knights wear red and blue armor, emblazoned with a peering cuckoo, whose shrewd gaze is thought to represent the knights' refusal to be mere servants of the academy. For payment, they were taught sorceries. These Cuckoo Knights had the power to match the champions of gold, or Lindel Knights basically. They suffered the same enchanting fate as the Cuckoo soldiers. Moongrum is one of such enchanted knights still left and guards Real Lucaria's Grand Library where Renala resides. We'll talk about the sources later. Now, the Walking Mausoleum also has its own three-tiered cavalry. Wandering mausoleums are the wrestling places of soulless demigods who are Marika's unwanted children. Reminds me of someone. Yeah, she was kind of bad parent. The Mausoleum army have beheaded themselves to follow their masters into death. For some reason, the foot soldiers can only be found in the mountaintops. The soldiers' circles depict the Mausoleum bell. The knights wear wing-shaped ornaments that evoke the deathbird, and their shields are emblazoned with the eclipsed sun. This eclipse is the protective star of the soulless demigods and aids the knights in keeping destined death at bay. The Nox cavalry doesn't have foot soldiers and the like, but they still have 3 tiers of people. They use flowing weapons forged from the liquid metal of silver tears. Long ago, they committed treason against the Greater Will and the Fingers by fashioning crystalline helmets out of glass to ward off the intervention. They were banished underground to live under false night sky in eternal anticipation of the coming age of stars and of their own Lord of Night. Nox Night Maidens are the highest authority, signaled by their twin crowns, which hide their eyes with silk. Scorned Races wearing conical crowns guard them. Nox monks are the lowest tier here, but they are no foot soldiers, alright? A Nox monk and sorceress protect Lucet's staff in Celia. Their being here is unnatural, sure, but perhaps after getting exiled for getting too much into stars, Lucet became interested in the Nox and a partnership was born. This is just a theory, of course. Oh yeah, the sorceress and Night Maiden puppets found are unique in the way that they become so out of their own volition. Why and how is still unclear. Crucible Knights serve Godfrey and like Kindred of Rot Knights have no tears. Their armor holds the power of the Crucible of Life, the primordial form of the Erdtree. Their strength and appearance was seen as chaotic and deserving of scorn, because that Crucible itself is scorned upon. Those who are led by Ordovis, their armor is adorned with his mark of X ornamentation, and they wield a similar greatsword to him. Siluria's mark is a tree. Her knights wield a similar spear to her. This tree is not the Erdtree, of course it is modeled after the Crucible. A total of 16 Crucible Knights can be fought, though 2 are already dead. Notable ones include, or the bosses are, a Crucible Knight found in an Everjoel for crimes unknown. One is in Redmond Castle to show their strength, and joins up with a Leonine Misbegotten because, well, they too are blessed by the Crucible, I guess. Tanith's Knight is a Crucible Knight and is against the Two Fingers actively. The 2 already dead are summoned by a spirit called a snail. Ordovis is randomly found in a hero's grave, and Siluria seemingly guards the remains of a knight in deep root depths. Fun fact, Ordovis and Siluria are named after either Celtic tribes or geological eras. So that's it for armies, but there are still bands of soldiers and knights. One such is the fallen Hawk soldiers who were ordered to explore the Eternal Cities. During the exploration, their embers started fading away and they burned their fellow soldiers' bones. Okay? And they accidentally managed to create Ghost Flame this way. Now, this is not the first instance of Ghost Flame in history, mind you, it's just a rediscovery. This blasphemy may have caused their deformities. They were probably a company of slaves and probably related to Crucible Knights as they fight alongside one. Now, Ghost Flame has sealed their fates as eternal denizens of the Eternal Cities. Banished knights and exiled soldiers hide their faces. They're banished and exiled because they lost their lands. They're found in fringes like Stormville Castle, yeah, Stormville is considered the fringes. Spectral versions can be found in Castle Sol, under Commander Niel forming the No Nation army. The Knights of Zemmour are the mortal enemies of fire giants. They earned renown during the war with them. The ancient heroes of Zemmour can be found in heroes' graves, though one is in an Everjoel, no idea why. Bloodhound Knights are trained hunters and trackers. They have no language, they choose their own master, which they will stay loyal to the point that they are found guarding their corpses, like the Bloodhound Knight found in Lakeside Crystal Cave, guarding an almost dead Latenna. But Bloodhound Knight Daryl is an exception, being a traitor and thus sicked by Blythe. He may have served Rani but somehow betrayed her. You know what I think? I think he may have served Sylvis because otherwise a Bloodhound Knight should not be doing betrayals. Bloodhound Knight Theo was known as a rabbit stray because he vowed he would only serve a true king, thus he never found a master. This guy might be the champion the Red Wolf served in Gelmir Hero's grave. Both Daryl and Theo are also named after geological eras like the Crucible Knight leader duo. Tree Sentinels are ramparts of the Erdtree, the ideal defenders. After Gransack's attack, some of them started emulating the dragons to protect better. No scaly fetish at all. These became Draconic Tree Sentinels. One such Draconic dude is somehow in Farum Azula. Now some factions. Flame Monks aided the Erdtree against the Fire Giants, designed Flame Protect Me and were appointed to watch over the flame. But in Souls fashion, they succumbed to the allure of the Fell God. That's why, despite being against it, they hold the Fell God in their chestplate. Chief Guardian Arganthe is particularly strong, befitting her title. She devised Flame of the Fell God, which revealed the said Fell God still exists within the last fire giant. This flame was stolen by Adan, thief of fire. That's why even though they are supposed to be only in the mountaintops, some flame monks can be found in Leonia to pursue Adan. They're also in Kaelid to fight off the rot. Fire prelates are the commanders. Their weight frames symbolize their grave vows, and some carry whips similar to Briars of Sin. Prelate Birak beheaded himself to teach a lesson to lazy arrogant monks. I do not know how that works. Anyways, these monks then decided to make a candlestick out of his head and make one of the most powerful weapons known to man. And the thorn sorcerers are guilty humanoids, their eyes gouged by thorns, thus living in eternal darkness. And this way they found the Bloodstar, and now can use aberrant or thorn sorceries, the worst ones really. Fire monks lead them, or more like keep them in check. Flame chariots are modeled after the fire giants. Some accompany the cuckoos, possibly as a gift to them. Now, some fire monks have turned. Amon was the first traitor who defected to go against the gods, becoming the first Black Flame monk. But the fire monks said that Amon fled out of cowardice to stop any further traitors, but it did not work, as many followed suit, flocking to Mount Gelmir. Flame Guardians can also be part of the Flame Monk faction, though not sure. They're tarnished and might be protecting Chief Guardian Arganthe. The Godskins are clearly against the gods. Possibly their drip is created by the Dominal Dancers, also known as celebrants. They're all women dressed in ceremonial garb. The blue garb wearing ones are thought to play a vital role. They wield tools from human bones and carry skull clubs. They possibly peel skin for the Godskins, and as a Godskin apostle is found here. One apostle can be found guarding the Godslayer's greatsword, one of their prized possessions. The Godskins serve the Glowmite Queen and the God-slaying flame derived from Destined Death. They were the initial protectors of Destined Death, but were defeated by Malekith and locked up. The Godskin nobles are the most ancient ones. A Godskin noble is in Volcano Manor because, well, going against the gods. And everyone's favorite Godskin duo is in Farum Azula to try to take back Destined Death. Highwaymen are former Godric foot soldiers. They're led by Patches and operate out of Murkwater Cave. Black Knife Assassins of course kill Godwin's soul. They're Newmen, said to be scions of the Eternal Cities, thus have close ties to Marika. After the night, they went into hiding all throughout the lands between, from Ordina to random catacombs. Alecto was the ringleader and is imprisoned in an Everjewel in the Moonlight Altar. Sadly, she saw her daughter Tish get killed in front of her very eyes, dying while protecting her mother. Pages serve nobility. They wear good clothes, do not feel good about themselves, but so they don't shame their masters. High pages are higher, faster, better, stronger. They serve even after their masters' deaths, protecting their positions. Bloody Fingers hunt the tarnished by the order of Moog. Neruiz is initially sent to kill us. Ravenmount assassins were already killers by trade and assailed their victims while dressed as birds of prey. Eleonora, Violet Bloodyfinger, the strongest of all, hailed from the land of Rees, same as Bloodyfinger hunter Yura, who probably had strong feelings towards her. Another Bloodyfinger from the land of Reeds is Okina. Okina means old man. This name comes from the wooden mask that he wears. He has several disciples in a group called the White Reeds, combatants who seek honorable deaths. They are also called Inaba. As time passed and the more Okina sharpened his mind, the more the absurdities of the world came into stark relief. And so he renounced it all, rose to a higher plane. There was only himself and his katana. He joins us in the fight against Radahn, but after that, he found and fought Moog. Moog felt the madness within Okina and proposed him a life of a demon, whose thirst would never go unsated. Okina accepted it and later invades you as a bloody finger. His disciples travelled in search of him but died in Spirit Caller's cave. If you want to be a bloody finger yourself and to complete Vara's questline, you are tasked to hunt Magnus the Beastclaw. He is a tarnished and one of the last worshippers of Serosh, Lord of Beasts. Yeah, Serosh seems like he was a big deal, but becoming a pet will make your worshipper count obviously go low. The agents of Volcano Manor are called recusants. Recusant Bernal is initially encountered as a merchant and then as an agent who gives you and aids you in contracts for the Volcano Mana. But he invades you in Faramazula for unknown reasons, but he might be on his way to fight Malekith himself. Another agent, Henricus, kills anyone who seeks the Limgrave Colliseum. Henricus is possibly an agent of Gideon due to the eye symbols literally everywhere on his armor. Giza too is a recusant but attacks us in the manor because he suspects us, even after officially joining it. Now some targets of the Volcano Manor, all tarnished, are Great Horn Tragoth, who is a silent knight famed for helping many tarnished, also aids against Radahn. He has many other summons too. Juno Hoslo, Dialos' loving older brother and head of his house. Multiple refusals to Volcano Manor caused him to become a target. Confessors loyally serve the Two Fingers as assassins and their leader is Creepers. Riley the Idol is such a confessor and a target, though Riley himself might be Creepers and he is also related to Malay Marais. Royal Lucaria only values talent and skill. The noble sorcerers who are asked to be given a place were usually not talented enough to even don crowns, as they can only learn glintstone pebbles. These frail old men use their staff both as weapons and walking sticks. They can be sometimes found with their fellow wandering nobles. These nobles are products of unending life. They wander around in search of something endlessly. Scholars who study at Royal Lucaria wear heavy stone crowns embedded with glintstone to designate the conspectors they belong to. The members of Carolus Conspectors, established by Azure, dedicate themselves to the study of comets. They are descendants of astrologers. Lusa started the Olivinus Conspectors, they study meteors. Heterodox Lazuli Conspectors studies Carian sorceries, viewing the moon as an equal to the stars. They use wooden swords imbued with glintstone. Twin Sages are the elites, mastering all sorceries. A variant exists combining Lazuli and Olivinus Conspectors, found in the rooftops of the Academy and Seria. There is also Selen's Conspectors with the Witch's Crown, but not properly named yet. Battle mages were Haima crowns of the Eponymous Conspectors. They are adjudicators of the Academy. They used cannon and Hevel sorceries. When Royal Lucaria was locked, only battle mages went out to seek the power to end the conflict between the Academy and Carian royalty. But battle mage Hugus only longed for the thrill of battle. That's why he is locked in an Evergel. There is another Conspectors, Herodas. A tarnished scholar Wilhelm belonged there. He was able to make contact with the primeval current and is one of the first tarnished ever to visit the Round Table, along with Vergam the Raging Wolf. He befriended Vergam, who was named after the white wolf pelt on his helm. He aspired to be a shadow to an Emprian, but their differing guidance led them to a fight. Thus they were imprisoned. Both are targets of Volcano Manor and can be found in the fake Round Table hold. That's it for groups of humanoid enemies. Now some named singular humanoids. Anastasia Tarnished Eater, known as the Ogress, is your female cannibal butcher archetype of Souls games. She hands down Tarnished under the disguise of a Finger Maiden. The Baleful Shadow is an assassin of two fingers sent after Rani. It resembles Blythe and holds the power of destined death. Not gonna talk about Vike's lore, instead gonna rant about him. When he invades you as the Festering Fingerprint, he uses frenzy incantations. But when you fight him for real in the Evergel, he doesn't use them. Why? Mad Tongue Albreak is an aloof yet disturbed heretical sorcerer. His attire is adorned by red glintstone born from the blood of sacrifices. It is said he was driven mad by jeering tongues during his service to the Hold, and he invades you here out of jealousy, I suppose. Preceptor Miriam is a teacher at the Carian Study Hall, served Carian royals, and now guards the hall from intruders. Necromancer Garrus was a sage who went heretical after or even before acquiring the Prince of Death's staff. He rediscovered an ancient death hex capable of summoning vengeful spirits. He wields a chain weapon consisting of 3 copperheads, said to resemble his wife and 2 children. Commander O'Neill continued to brandish his lord's flag in the Swamp of Aeonia even after said lord fled. He is now the sole veteran who remembers that battle with pride. He possesses the unalloyed gold needle, that's why he's not, rotted yet, even after being in the literally heart of Aeonia. He was the same armor as Niall, who is possibly O'Neill's son, or maybe the other way around. Commander Niall is the veteran of Castle Saul. He offered his prosthesis in exchange for the lives of imprisoned knights, forming an army of no nation. He also commands the spirits of deceased banished knights to defend his long-lost master. Like most of the children of Marika, our lad Messmer here was cursed from birth with the base serpent. Really nothing is known about it, save its evil character. Marika removed Messmer's right eye to thwart this terrible snake and replaced it with her seal of grace. Her fear persisted though. So Marika actually had two reasons for sending Messmer to the Land of Shadow. The first was to conceal Messmer and the base serpent in the same company as the original sin. Another unsolved question, incidentally. Of course, the second motive is to get rid of the Hornsent. More on that later. In accordance with his mother's wishes, Messmer became a symbol of terror and carried out her crusade, even expressing to turn all of their anger, grief and malice towards him alone. It is stated that the serpent crest shield was created to honor the start of this campaign. Now let's return to the base snake. When her grace would finally break, Marika dreaded the shape that Messmer would inevitably take. Heck, the blessings that we discover were intended for Messmer, but Marika finally stopped sending them, either out of fear or, the shattering. However, the language suggests the former one. Messmer's dark kindling is being devoured by this snake. Messmer hated his own fire. He kept trying to get rid of it, but it burned all the time. Messmer's constant companions were the winged snakes. When the base serpent was shut away beneath his eye, they were present. They remained by his side during his endless agony. As much as he has accepted his fate, so have they. Oh yeah, he is probably the older brother of Melina. Commander Gaius, another Remembrance boss, is Messmer's second in command. Gaius was never without his boar, so albinoric maybe? And his sword lance was at its best when he rode. His armor is designed to resemble fallen seeds. The same Alabaster Lord who taught gravitational tactics to Radahn and Gaia, no idea who, also had Gaius as the most senior apprentice. Blades of Stone are the result of the amicable rivalry between Gaius and Radahn during the formative years. For Radahn, Gaius and Messmer were both like older brothers. Both of them were cursed from birth. Thus Gaius was Messmer's friend and his men's leader despite, or maybe because of this precise reason. Rellana, the twin Moon Knight, is yet another legendary figure in Messmer's army. The younger sister of the full moon queen Rellana, a former Carrion princess, gave up her birthright and remained at Messmer's side while being fully aware that not even the moon's brightness could save him. When she left, Rellana gave her a gift of shiny black hair, okay? And she soon gained notoriety as Messmer's sword. Moon and fire were only ever together in Rellana's swords. She had also previously used the Carrion thrusting shield in her one and only ceremonial combat. Once practiced by all as a ritual battle to honor the Erdtree, the dueling shield ritual is now gone but remains common in the Land of Shadow. Rennala and Rellana met the twin moons when they were little, overlapping as if they were tucked up close to one another, and conjured this moment into a devastating spell. Now the Black Knights. Black Knights because all of their equipment is made of black iron that has been adorned with gold. An Erdtree incantation is applied to their weapons, and additional holy imbuement strengthens the benefits. The Black Knights' great shields represent their unwavering belief in their cause, and their refusal to give up or even question it. There's a terrible smell that will not go away in their helm. Maybe it's because of how polluted the blood was that splashed on it. Alternatively, it could represent the wearer's own charred soul, festering from unending carnage. We get 4 named Black Knights, the former commander Andreas and second in command his son, who were champions of the divine beast hunt but betrayed Messmer after getting to know about his serpentine nature. Their righteous hand was rewarded with imprisonment in underground tombs, yet Messmer did mourn for them. These two are the spirit ashes we find. Black Knight Garyu is in charge of Fogriff Fort, and Adreed is in charge of Fort of Reprimand. Other than Garyu being quite freaky, nothing else is known about them. There might be possible replacements for Andreas and Hu. The Fire Knight's weapons are endowed with a flame enchantment, just as the Black Knight's, and further flame imbuement will strengthen the effect as well. Every single Fire Knight came from a well-known family in the upper classes of the Land of the Erdtree, but after they saw loyalty to Messmer, they were ostracized and driven from their homes. The Fire Knights turned to fire incantations to honor their lord when the flame that Messmer had given them refused to take hold within them. There are a lot of well-known Fire Knights. The leader of the Fire Knights is Fire Knight Kood. He's not that different. He does, however, possess a unique winged snake headgear that is a token monster of Messmer's army. Quilleen, the Fire Knight who assaults you multiple times and is essentially a fan of Messmer, much like the rest of his army but at an obsessive level. He gave the crusade his all, reshaping his huge sword into a Messmer spear and striving to become the second Impaler. He can become a Spirit Ash at the conclusion of his questline. Vego is the most senior Fire Knight in the group. Two twisted death masks placed on top of one another make up his helm. Feeling isolated, the elderly man focused on the spiritual significance of Messmer's flame and used it in a ritual of rebirth. Nevertheless, Vego was not consoled by the soulless bodies he brought to life. His pupil and a sage of the Fire Knights was Fire Knight Salza. Even at the danger of his own life, he declined to set fire to an ancient ruin. This ruin is the ancient ruins of Rao, as he can be found protecting its entry. Salza's disdain for barbarism never waned, even as he burned more villages and scorched more land than any other. Fire Knight Hilde was a dear friend of his and joined those who urged that the specimens be preserved. Hilde's ashes were enshrined as a charm to protect the storehouse, enabling us to easily loot it. The rank and file Messmer soldiers lost themselves utterly in Messmer's war. Their weapons are worn from constant use. Fun fact, they wield the largest shields in their class. Their helms have pitch dark soot clinging to it, much like their faces. The engraving upon the forehead is a Scadutree design, but it is etched in gold. A small consolation to those forced to wage war without any grace of honor. The warriors who fought in the crusade set aside both honor and mercy to wantonly impale and scourge those deemed impure. They used the serpent flail to burn Hornsent, to brand with agony and fear. Those who felt invigorated by each cry of death were the same men who were certain of the sanctity of the campaign. The two soldier ashes belonged to the Penal Battalion, meaning they were convicts and thus were buried hidden from the Scadutree's sight. And finally, the Furnace Golems. 8 of these can be found functional, but there were many more in Messmer's army. They are made from Scadutree branches. That's how crystal tears form slowly over the ages inside them, while the scattered sap of the Scadutree pools deep within the Furnace Golems. Their visages depict the fell god of fire that haunts the sagas of the Hornsent. Messmer did his research alright. Now, the Hornsent themselves. You might feel bad for them at first, but man, it's really black versus black all over in this place. Well, it's a FromSoft game after all, what else can I expect? Anyways, the Hornsent worships the Crucible. They are called Hornsent because they view the Crucible as sacred for the refinement wrought through its evolutionary gifts, most prominently the Tangled Horns. There are many Hornsent enemies we fight in the DLC actually, like the next 10 entries are all Hornsent, though they look quite different. Some even might not have the actual horns. The Hornsent burned down Marika's home, the shaman village, and took its inhabitants to make the living jars. Yeah, at least this crusade of Marika I would say is sorta justified. The guardians of the Belurat Tower are the Horned Warriors. The ochre cloth is draped over a chest piece that is designed to imitate the naked figure of an ancient hero, most likely Godfrey or Horalu. The great sword of the Horned Warrior can be used as a medium for horn calling thanks to the beautiful tangled horns. Fun fact, because of the spiral form which resembles the crucible, Hornsents adore two-headed turtles. The first of all, the Horned Warriors are the Divine Bird Warriors. The heavenly birds with golden hues have a reputation for being nasty and not liking companionship. There were very few individuals who called upon their divinity. They are supposed to resemble the golden crucible, as do their holy bird feathers. The Horned Warriors claim ancestry from the heavenly bird warrior Orni, clothed in glided armor and bestowed with wings and plumed tail by heavenly call. After successfully taming the divine bird, Orni took on its wings and flew over the heavens. He continued to exist as the temple quarter's guardian deity even after he eventually plummeted to earth. Divine Beast Warriors are the chosen of the Horned Warriors, adorned with a lion's pelt. Among them, only those who truly excel at divine invocation become sculpted keepers and are granted the honor of the lion dance. The divine beast dancing lion's head is a ritual headwear in the form of a divine beast's head used to perform the lion dance. All of the Hornsent stuff have similar effects, diminishing blessings of the earth tree. The majority of divine beasts were gored and hung upon Messmer's spears, then burned in his flame. Those who witnessed the deed likened it to a funeral pyre for the tower itself. Divine beasts are messengers of the heavens, and their rage mirrors the discord of the skies of which storms are the pinnacle. When the Impaler's army assailed the tower, the ritual of the lion dance was turned toward martial ends. The one found in the tower is a former protector of said tower, but it no longer responds to any hate, specifically that of Hornsent, Grandam I suppose. Now it may have gone berserk and defends any realm from anyone, or is somehow under Messmer or probably Michaela's spell. The one found in Rao, well, let's not talk about it. Look, I get it, this is the only remembrance boss that there could be multiples of, but still, why? Why would you make the same mistakes from the base game? And you gave it the ability to spawn in basilisks. Like, what? Why? The deadly fly disease struck several Hornsent, turning them into man-flies. The weak ones among them were gone long before the transformation became apparent. Strangely, people who provided care for the afflicted and ensured they received the appropriate burial were never themselves afflicted. Additionally, it was thought that they were freed from their agony at the instant the metamorphosis occurred. Because they are also Hornsent, Curse Blades have an obsession with divinity. These were ascetic individuals who aspired to become tutelary or guardian deities. They underwent intense ascetic training to heighten their spirituality in order to achieve this. Their dedication to an austere life of rigorous self-control is embodied in their wrist guards. They even flogged themselves while dancing with the Curseblade Circa. But all of this ended up in failure. They were indeed a scourge for invaders, yes, but long ago, before the land was overshadowed by invasion, this scourge was shunned because they failed to attain divinity and the Curseblades were imprisoned. It was during this confinement that Curseblade Mira met fellow Curseblade Labyrinth, and upon her death, Labyrinth was plunged into devastating darkness. The imposing White Tower of Belurat and Enirilim, which reaches up to the gods, was constructed by the Inquisitors. This even gave rise to a covert religion among the Earth Tree invaders. Inquisitors use Spira incantations. The barb, a well-known emblem of forced inquiry, is similar to the Spira arc. Their spiral is a crucible current that has normalized and will eventually coalesce into column reaching to the gods. Because Inquisitors frequently confuse the uninitiated, seniority was seen as an advantage. Some of them have enormous weight frames. Jory was the most significant of these Inquisitors because he was the oldest. His great staff, which may be used as a great spear, has golden barbs that represent the torture of the Inquisition. Jory oversaw the Inquisition of Midras Mans and remained in the Darklight catacombs to prevent anyone from leaving or entering the Abyssal Woods. Greater potentates of Bonny Village made the jars. One greater potentate, who roamed lands near and far, haunted by the grotesque practice of his village of birth, stuffed great pots with all manner of things. The NPC Hornsent is probably a former greater potentate as his mask is said to be used by them. It is used to ward off thoughts of impurity, doubt, temptation and other wickedness one is vulnerable to while absorbed in the divine ritual of making shamans into living jars. He is out for revenge and forged falcons because of this. The braided cords all over his garb symbolizes his grudges. I actually felt bad for this guy at first, but reading the lore... The living jars are shamans, trying to be, well, forced in trying to be saints. The Hornsent whipped shamans, their flesh was said to meld harmoniously with others. The great jar is the attire of the shamans who perform their worship at jars. They offer their prayers to the inners of the great jars, such that they might be reborn one day into sainthood. This is the cycle of death and rebirth, taken into the hands of mortal man. As I said before, Shaman Village was Marika's homestead. That's probably why a pair of tree sentinels can be found there. Although honestly that's contradicting because the tree sentinels are only loyal to the Earth Tree, not Marika or the Golden Order. But no other reason for them being here comes to mind. The Ghost Flame Dragons times 3. A variety of dead people call the land of spirit graves home, including the corpses of slain dragons. Some of them had such vitality that they could not truly die, even when they were dead. Originally designed as guardians for the spirit graves where all forms of death eventually end, grave birds are ancient golems. The grave birds were created, so the myth goes, to be kindred to the death birds. Hence the death right bird discovered in Charo's hidden grave. And could someone please tell me who the heck Charo is? Putrescent slugs are what remains of the impure lives kept within the stone coffins. Putrescent Knight is the most mysterious of all the Remembrance bosses really, including the base game. Its cleaver is made from hardened putrescence affixed to an arch fashioned from human bones. In an age-long past, death was burned by ghost flame. Even the remains of tainted flesh were given equal treatment in death. All tainted flesh eventually becomes putrescence. And this clump of it, coming from those all the stone coffins, imbibed Centrion's nectar, which granted it eternal rest. And so it was that putrescence became her knight, protecting her slumber. Metyr was the mother of Fingers, mother to all two Fingers and Fingercreepers, who was in turn a magnificently gleaming daughter of the Greater Will, and the first shooting star to fall upon the lands between. She once received signs from the Greater Will from the beyond of the microcosm. Despite being broken and abandoned, she kept waiting for another message to come, meaning the Two Fingers and Golden Order operate on an outdated will. Now her fingers look after the mother, or perhaps that is merely what the mother wishes to believe. Count Ymir wanted to be a mother of Fingers himself, but like Metyr, he would not receive any signs either. Though Count Ymir instructed Rilana in the sorcerer's arts, he abandoned his allegiance to the moon, saying it was merely the closest of the celestial bodies. His robe is the image of his fervent desire having broken free, laying bare his greatest wish, exclaiming that he would be the true mother, that his fingers would grant them redemption. The worm-like things in the finger ruins or lampreys, they guard the finger ruins and resemble fingers far more than they do humans, and so the finger weavers imitated the sorcery. They might be the missing link between fingers and humans. The Scadutree avatar has a similar appearance to the Scadutree itself, with his second stalk encircling the original one firmly, almost like a loving embrace. The Scadutree power is channeled into its attack, Land of Shadow, as shadow accompanies gold. The Scadutree is of course the shadow of the Earth Tree, originating from ominous ideas devoid of any sense of order. These ideas twist and bend its stalk, causing it to become fragile, and so does the Scadutree avatar. And I have no fucking clue what these shadow people and dogs are. I have scoured through every new item but found nothing. Shadow militiamen though, like their other counterparts, they love fresh battlefields. Thus, what better place than the realms of shadow, the place of a freshly baked crusade. The Spirit Ashes breed of scorpion was native to the realm of shadow but was far smaller in size. Recent giant scorpions are said to trace back to the Church of the Bird. Also, scorpion spider stew is a traditional meal of the Hornsent. Okay, so please let me know how and why a falling star beast is here. My negative thoughts regarding this guy will be reflected in the boss ranking, alright? That's coming up next. Ralva and Rugalia are two great red bears we face. Apparently there are humorous people in the lands between, calling their powers a part of bear communion. Rugalia's roar incantation is more akin to the divine invocation of the Hornsent than it is to the dragon communion though. As for why they are called red bears, well, the blood of their enemies I suppose permanently colored them red or something. Like the Highland Warriors who are hunters of bears, there is a set found around Rugalia. To them, there is no act more glorious than the subjugation of a savage beast. The Crucible was full of life once, long ago before the shadows fell over this land. The historic ruins have remnants of this. Aspects of the Crucible, thorns, manifested in one golden hippo, which was tamed by Messmer. Two new types of imps were introduced. The lizard imps can wield fork-tongued hatchets or lizard greatswords, with the former being in the shape of a fork-tongued dragon. This weapon is also known as the imp's tongue. The lizard greatsword is in the shape of a fork-tongued lizard. The big-mouthed imps are said to be fashioned after a dragon. Has a big mouth that serves as a cannon and allows it to fire shells from the rear of the battlefield. After the church was burned to the ground, Romina discovered a twisted divine element. which she weaved into the baleful Scarlet Rot. In the crumbling, burning church, Romina held these birds in speechless silence. Those birds would become her blade. The scarlet butterflies are like the goddess of Rot's wings. Devoid of a master, they are soothed by Romina, who reached out to them. The different colored pests are abandoned servants, and it is for this reason that they found a new mother in the Saint of the Bird. The Hornsent were the ones responsible for the Inquisition in the Manse. Midra's body was pierced by the great sword of damnation, whose barbs pierced the victim from within. As the golden barbs inflicted eternal agony upon him, Midra held fast to Nanaya's words, "Endure." That word was a curse. Nanaya's lore is unclear. Her torch is whatever is left of the previous failed Lord of Frenzied Flame. This is not Midra, but might be their child. The Lord of Frenzied Flames shall take their torment, despair, their affliction, every sin, every curse, all melted away. Yet Midra, like others before him, was too frail to become a lord. After enough suffering and madness, Midra finally became a proper vessel to the frenzy. Aging untouchables, or probably winter lanterns, their head resembles a sprig of ripe grapes. They simply exist to madden more people. In their own words, "Gift your madness to our Lord, bless our brethren with grapes, take care that they fully ripen." The madding hand was hunted down by his own brethren in the name of heresy. His madding hand is stitched together from maddened skins. Whether the skins are from other victims or the hunters, it is unclear, and the poison hand has literally the same description. Okay, time for the Band of Hawks, the band of NPCs. Except for Ansbach and Theolia, all of them might become your enemy in the fight in any realm, though in a single run you can indeed have scripted fights with all of them. We have already talked about the Hornsent, so now the supposed leader, Needle Knight Leda. Her armor is embroidered with a golden cross true motif. The chalk white cloth and surcoat symbolize the honor of the Needle Lights. Miquella fashioned them as his needles to quell all, to ward away all. Long ago, the Needle Knights were in service of Miquella, but now they are no more. Save for one, Leda. It is heavily implied that Leda killed all of her former comrades. A group of spiritual seekers of the Dryleaf sect, whose teachings are only known to those with exceptional bravery and moral integrity. The Dryleaf sect prioritizes self-sufficiency and self-discipline over reliance on others in all aspects of faith. Those who long ago predicted that order would collapse and accepted this rigid faith were those who saw the downfall of the Earth Tree. They were then made to serve a different god. Sworn to be Leda's ally, Dryleaf Dane learned his martial arts with the help of a waterfall, of course. Outside of his questline, Ansbach doesn't have any hidden or implied lore. He's what he says, was a follower of Mo, got enchanted by Miquella, and now wants his master's body back. And almost the same with Theolia. He uses a poisoned hidden blade, created the deadly poison perfume bottle. He's not a perfumer, but upon learning that some perfumer arts employ poison, he became devoted to learning them. He was just once granted the sweet repose of velvety sleep, and now he's obsessed with recapturing that. Radahn invited Freya to become one of his most loyal warriors after seeing her bravery as a gladiator. On the anniversary of the creation of Radahn's personal guard, she bestows upon exceptionally brave members of the guard the Golden Lion Shield, which is also given to us. She used to have a horrible scarlet wound hewn into the middle of her face. Afterwards, when Miquella softly kissed it, the permanent scar served as Freya's guide from that point on. Moore is a bit of an enigma. His equipment is made of verdigris. It is an unusual metal said to be the gift of an outer god. His shield will continue to protect his target even if his bearer should die. Other than that, the only info I could find is that the Forager brood helps him because, well, they felt bad for him and his kin. Moonrithil, Carrion Knight, Relana's Chamberlain. She was a friend to the trolls and proudly wielded their weapons. That's why her Night Sword and the Troll Swords are so similar. Those who were born in a cold, dark jail, deep underground, raised there, deprived of light, were made to be sword hands of night. Thus they were cultivated to become the most terrifying masters of the blades. Like the two sisters, Jolan and Anna, though the burden of the deed left their hearts frail and pliant. I say sisters, but Anna is a puppet. When and how this happened is unclear, but the Anna we meet is indeed a puppet. Logar the Beastclaw imitates the esoteric techniques of the Horned Warriors through beast claws. Because of this weapon, he is said to have been possessed by a savage beast. Devonia is the longest serving Crucible Knight, her weapon forged of primordial gold. It is said Devonia quested in search of the Crucible's origin and departed from the lands of the Erdtree alone to end up in the ancient ruins of Rauh. Lamenter. So he's basically addicted to melancholy. Wearing the Lamenter's mask helps reach a state of paradise. Sad, yes, but way more enjoyable apparently. But the people of the tower denied it and hid it from the world. In their foolishness, they viewed true bliss with deep fear. The Black Jewel Knight is a knight of solitude. They are from solitary jewels and, through a secret rite, they relinquish their hearts for heightened battle prowess. Next, they engrave their great swords with crests, one depicting the light of birth and the other solitude. The nameless mausoleums of the realm of shadow are said to hold the spirits of warriors who lost their names or their hearts, with the Black Jewel Knight being the first we encounter. With an everlastingly blood-red katana, Rakshasa withstands the enemy's blows before retaliating with all of her might. The blood that spurts from her victims soaks her helm. Ratty bits of fabric protrude carelessly, giving the impression that her desire for destruction is about to explode. Cut down and devour. Surely subverting the self and becoming Rakshasa is only possible for those who continue this cycle without stopping. Man, Miyazaki loves his female cannibals, alright. The dance of Rana is one of intense emotion, and the most ferocious dancers never let up, dancing until they even lose their names. Such is the case with the one we fight. To witness the dancer's spark go out is to witness the passion wane. His name is lost to insanity as well. Upon the killing of a red bear, he was enthralled by the pure splendor of its bear power. He wishes to be a bear, nothing more and no less. Thus he makes use of a red bear's claws. Red bear's cheek guards resemble the fangs of a lion. This indicates he was a red man in the past, and perhaps because he had been one, he was fascinated by the wild strength. Long ago, a subjugated tribe discovered a twisted deity amongst the ravages of war, and they were transformed into blood fiends. Blood fiends use makeshift weapons made from their fallen kin's corpses, though the sacred spear is one of the most significant tools used in the blood rituals, instruments of communion with an outer god, the Formless Mother. Sometimes they shed their own blood using forks to offer the Formless Mother, who constantly desires a wound. They have a chief, I guess. He's not that strong, and he's somehow a great enemy, like just below the legends. I don't know how. In the past, smithing was considered a divine act. Blacksmiths read the script they saw in the creases of molten steel to give weapons souls. These blacksmith golems made smith script weapons in this manner. Though he was supposed to be the youngest and weakest among them and the first to stop moving, Telu ended up becoming the smithery's guardian deity. Ancient Dragon Man. His great katana has an anti-dragon effect and lives in the dragon's pit. He was once a candidate to devour Bale's heart, as eating its heart is the purest form of communion. But possibly out of fear he stopped that pursuit. Due to his encouraging nature, I think he's probably testing us and trying to pass us his katana, along with his dream. And Bale the Dread. Bale once had attacked Placidusax and ran away, taking his heads. But this act was not without injury. He fled to the Jagged Peak and gave birth to the numerous Jagged Peak drakes found there, who keep fighting amongst each other, which I can possibly assume is to become the strongest. There is nothing on Ancient Dragon's Thanasax, but I am assuming as well that it is possibly a she and the one Bale got freaky with. Now, even after being consumed, the throbbing heart of Bale continues to resist its subjugation, never weakening. One day the fire within will consume the very body and soul of its communion devourer. Oathseeker Knights, we find no such enemies, just a corpse with their full set. They use the Pata. These knights set off on quests of discovery, hoping to find by themselves an oath of their own, choosing to serve in perfect, lifelong devotion. Death Knights were part of the capital's ancient dragon cult, were personal guards of Godwyn, and also the protector of Godwyn's cadaver surrogate, or corpse substitute. One of them uses twin axes and another a long axe. The long axe bears a representation of a decayed golden ring. Their own death masks served as the visors of the armor. The decayed golden wheel that adorns it represents their unbroken loyalty to Godwyn. The knight's lightning spear was taught only to the most accomplished knights, and now a lost art in the lands between. These knights quested to find the transfigured master's cadaver surrogate for the coming age of the Duskborn. Now, where is that, Miyazaki? Where is Godwyn? Demi-human sword master Onze was a skilled swordsman who dedicated his life to perfecting the star-lined blade, which was made from a tiny fragments of unpolished glintstone. The swordsman promised to find the truth at the end of the star procession after receiving this weapon from the Queen Mariga. When Onze realized that the parade of stars would only end in ruin, he locked himself up to prevent it. Despite his self-imposed solitude, Yosh, an apprentice who learned from him, obstinately disregarded his master's advice and remained by his side for the rest of his life. From time to time, perfumers set out on journeys to pursue new aromatics and flower gardens. The perfumers of the Land of Shadow modified perfume bottles into weapons because the crusade of the Hornsent was a violent purge, and the perfumers are not called there to heal. Promised Consort Radahn. There's a lot to say here, and if you finish the game, you know the gist of it, but here it goes. Michaela saw kindness and strength in her young Radahn and made a vow to make him King Consort. Melania says to Radahn in the intro, "O promised consort, Michaela waits thee." It was necessary to become one with Radahn for Michaela to be an all-powerful god, and paved his way through manipulation. He did envision a compassionate world, but whether he was good or evil, well, that depends upon how you agree with this statement. The ends justify the means. And why the hell is Godwyn? Oh yeah, the glowing worms, yeah, right. I have no clue. Nothing, none at all. Maybe they should stay as an enigma, really. And that's it for the series as well. The final video about Elden Ring will be a ranking of 206 bosses. Yeah. Anyways, drop a like if you enjoyed the vid, comment down anything I missed or your speculations, and of course, subscribe. Thanks for watching and goodbye.